almost a circle, a decent ring, but a crooked second ring, because I try to connect the rings, you know how it goes in an angle, and that's what I try to do.
Okay. And your memory?
It came out with a picture too. I thought of a picture.
Yeah,
I was trying to think. I think I took it too literally. The zero.
No, that's fine.
Like,
It's fine.
closer
And
to
what was
baby
the
stuff.
picture?
It just, I don't remember if it was my dad or my mom holding me, and I'm just smiling. That's it.
Okay. So everybody had somewhat, minus Paula, of a positive, somewhat a positive experience, okay, at a young age. So now we're gonna do 7, 14, 21, and if you're 21 and 28, you're gonna do 21 and 28, okay? So now we're gonna close our eyes. So I want, first of all, for you to start, you're gonna put your pens down for a moment, okay? And I just want you to take your non-dominant hand, so if you're a lefty, put your right hand, if you're a righty, put your left hand, over the 7. And I want you to think of the first memory that comes to mind when you're 7 years old, related to structure, related to discipline, related to rules, related perhaps to death, an ending, a move, discipline. You're closing your eyes. And whatever that memory is that's related to those themes, just let it come. Don't think about it. We're not thinking. We're letting the body just remind us. Remember, we're talking about themes related to 7. At this point, your personality is formed, you're in school, you're given structure and rules and discipline. You might have experienced a loss or a death already. What memory is coming up? Write that down.
Write down?
Write it down? Write it down, yeah. You can open your eyes and write that down. And I just want to read a few words to you. And you can do this for the rest of them if you want to. Okay, who wants to share?
Before I even close my eyes, to be honest, when you said 7 and think of a moment, I don't know if this happened before I was 7 or at 7. I thought about this blue and white outfit my auntie brought me, and it came with a little matching purse from the flea market. That's when the flea market was the shit. It's this blue and white outfit. I was in love with the outfit, and it came with a little clear bag, a clear purse, and a little phone. I thought about that moment because I was real cheesy that day. I was feeling myself that day. I was.
And what happened with that outfit?
I don't even know. It's 2 outfits I ever loved in my life. That was one. I had it in 2 colors. I don't know why the hell she got pink. The other
parents do that?
That was my auntie. She didn't like how my other auntie dressed me for school. I liked it that one because she took me out of school to go buy that outfit. She was not pleased. That was with the grandma I had with my little grandma.
I remember.
Yeah,
I
that.
definitely remember
my auntie
that.
did not. Oh my gosh, she had a fit. She came to pop up at the school. And we went to the flea market. She brought me that outfit. That outfit and this little army fatigue outfit was my favorite 2 outfits. I try to wear it every day.
Okay, so what happens when we reach about 7 years old? So I told you on Tuesday that we have 4 levels of the subconscious. First is at conception, okay? So when we have conception, this is where death begins. Does anyone remember why? Why does death begin?
Because you're expelled out.
You're expelled out of where?
Oh, the wholeness.
Yes, you're
perfection.
expelled out of the cosmic consciousness.
In order to have death, yeah.
So from this perfect state, you're sort of, in this imperfect state, because you now have a body that is imperfect, okay? So once we are given a body, we have an imperfect state. So that's a conception. What happens at conception?
Conditional.
Conditional love. Your parents are flawed, therefore you become flawed. Okay, so that's the beginning of it. Then, from 0 to 7, you start with a story. You get a narrative. You get your personality. So when we're looking at age 7, we're already seeing threads of your story.
But what if we, like, every time we do like a little exercise like this, what if we're getting the dates wrong? I know I was before 7 when what I just thought of, that wasn't at 7. It's just that's what I thought of.
It's okay. Your subconscious knows. Your subconscious knows.
My ages and numbers be off.
It's okay. The subconscious knows what you need to remember for the point of the activity. You have to remember that all of it's sort of perfectly orchestrated. So, what is the importance of Tanisha, her one auntie not liking how the other auntie dresses her? If this is the age that your personality is being formed, what is being killed?
The creativity.
Your creativity is being killed off, your spirit,
Yeah.
your sort of childlike nature.
Isn't that a thing, how you dress, you're allowed to express yourself?
Absolutely. And all of a sudden,
It got shut down.
this adult comes
Dress
in.
myself.
One adult comes in and says, oh, no, no, no.
Yeah.
This is how you're going to dress. It's structure, it's rules, it's discipline. Those are the words of Saturn.
Yeah, my auntie was
This
not.
symbol is a symbol of Saturn. If you look at your chart, whoever has their chart out, you're going to see Saturn. This is going to be where you're going to have cyclical deaths over and over and over again. You're going to have these mini deaths over and over and over again. You have a constant source of that with your mom. Okay, so here are some of the words. Formal, conservative, responsible, reliable. You have this in your packet. Disciplined, hard work, cautious, pessimistic, fearful, objective, skeptical, melancholy, career, rigid, uncompromising, respectful, industrious, rejecting, cold, unloving. Do these sound like child, fun, loving words? No. These sound like adult, harsh, it's time to grow the hell up, people, words. And the age at which we start our first death is at 7. What happens at the age of 7 to a child?
Start becoming less innocent.
Less innocent? Where do they go?
The shenanigans.
Go to your parents. I don't know, you look for your parents to embrace who you want to be.
Okay, but who's your real sort of, social group?
Friends.
You're starting to become your friends.
Social, yeah. You start to imitate what they do.
You start starting to push your parents away a bit, and you start embracing more of your friends, right? And you're developing your personality, and you go to school.
So funny.
Okay, although nowadays we start going to school younger and younger. But what happens when you go to school? Let's say you had 1 or 2 kids at the house. It's just you and your brother or your sister. Okay, you might have to fight for attention for a couple of kids. But now all of a sudden you're in a classroom with 20 or 30 kids.
You started becoming the clown of the class is gonna solve it.
You all of a sudden are like, oh shit, I have to stand out. How am I going to stand out with these 20 or 30 kids? How is mom, the teacher, going to notice me? What personality am I going to put on so that I'm noticed? Am I the class clown? Am I going to be the smart one? Am I going to be the teacher's pet? Am I going to be the kiss ass? Am I going to be the quiet one? Am I going to be the one who pees in my pants? And you start developing a personality that then will follow you into life. And then the essence, your true spirit of who you are starts to slowly diminish and diminish and diminish. And then your first parent-teacher conference. And the parent comes, and the parent goes home and tells the spouse, our child does not behave at school the way they behave at home. And the parents are all shocked. And they're like, right? Doesn't it happen with Julian?
Yeah.
That's not my kid. Because at home, Julian's an only child. And he gets the center of attention, and he can be a kid in his creative nature, and he can play, and he can do whatever he wants. But in a school setting, he's one of 25 kids. And he has to find a persona, and you're like, who is this teacher talking about? She's talking about a completely different kid. And that's what starts happening. So now Tanisha's story starts to unfold. Oh, I need to dress an appropriate way. I need to find a style. I need to start finding a fashion. And then we start seeing how our story unfolds. So whether it's 7 years old or 3 or 4 years old, the story starts to unfold for you. The adults in your life start to tell you who you need to become. Saturn, this planet that rules death, gives you the mandate of your life. Who has their chart with them? Okay. What sign? Let me guess. What sign is your Saturn in? It's in Aries. Okay. The sign that your Saturn is in, Tanisha, where's yours in? And yours doesn't have the exact time, but it's still, it will be the right thing. Yours is in Pisces. And Gerson, yours is in Pisces also. You guys don't have yours? Okay. Your Saturn is going to be the mandate, the value systems that the people in authority told you that you had to live by. They said, these are the rules, these are the most important things in your life. So what is the first death that happens in your life? And Stacy, you said it.
I did.
The creativity.
Oh, yeah.
If you're given the mandate of which you have to live by, the values, in order for Tanisha to be okay, she's got to dress a certain way. She's not able to wear her purple and her yellow polka dots or whatever. She now has to wear her blue and white stripes.
Yeah.
She's given a mandate. The creativity goes out the window. That's why these are the words: discipline, boring, structure, responsible. That's why how many of us want to do whatever the hell we want? How many of us think that having all the money in the world is freedom? How many of us want to just come and go as we please? Because we think that that's freedom. Because at a certain age, at 7 years old, we experienced our first death. We were crushed. Our spirit was just mortar and pestle. Just, do I have a mortar and pestle here? I usually have a more, here it is. Our spirit was taken and gone, die, sucker! You're an adult now! And it's the first death we experience at 7 years old. Okay? That's why I had you draw the planet Saturn.
It does.
Because Saturn has rings around it for a reason. Limitation. The moment you experience limitation, and it's usually a physical death, limitation through school, limitation through rules, limitation from what you're allowed to wear, limitation through a teacher, limitation through your parents because they're making you have a certain bedtime now, whatever it is.
But what if we liked it? Like, it didn't bother me. She dragged me out, that she took me out of school to go shopping. Like, it didn't bother me.
It affected you because you couldn't wear it no more.
No. I was still able to wear it because she wasn't mad at me. It's like she was going off about my auntie. Like, because my auntie used to pop up to school to make sure I'm doing good or whatever like that. So in my head, I was having fun. I'm not in school. I get to spend time with my auntie. We buying clay. I liked it that damn day. That was a day for me. Like, I was happy.
Right, but you also learned a limitation that there was something that you couldn't do.
Yeah, she's not
If you learn you can do something, the flip side is there's something you can't do. It's 0 to 100.
You're in there real quick.
Yeah, I went back to school looking good. Like, I was happy.
Right, but you also learned that you had to look good all the time.
You see, you did learn something. You had to look good all the time. Like, you said, you picked out your outfit. You feel like, if you go shopping, I want to pick out something.
I've
similar to
heard
that.
you talk about, oh, I don't look good. Or, I'm not getting dressed like this all the time. When you came back from your vacation, you've said, I'm not looking like this all the time.
Yeah, okay, that part. I said I didn't look good. Wait.
No, but
My vacation, that's a no.
no, but I've also heard and seen you when you come to class looking like good, and you're like, I'm feeling myself today. Like,
Because you
Some
learn.
days, yes.
yeah.
So that is, I'm slipping the word in English, esclavitud. How do you say it? Like a slavery, an enslavement of looking good, just like it were to be an enslavement if you force yourself to look bad. And I've shared this with you. My mom is a typical goddess. My mother is a typical Aphrodite. She looks beautiful all the time. What we normally do is we look at our parents and we decide, I'm going to be just like them or I'm going to do the opposite. We either love it or we hate it. And that's not the way we quote unquote should be, but that's typically how the brain works, right? So I looked at my mom and she was always beautiful. And I was just like, oh hell no. I don't want to be like her, so I'm going to be the opposite. So I put on weight, I didn't want to dress up, I'm just going to look ugly. Well, that's just as much slavery as looking pretty all the time. The flip side of the coin is the same coin. If you take out a quarter, you only have one coin, it just has two faces. So her needing to look good is as much enslavement as looking not good. And that's what we need to learn.
Yeah, my auntie was into her.
That's the first limitation that we get. We get that at 7 years old. Who else? Yes.
I was 7, like how you said that. At the time, my grandpa had passed away. And it was that Saturday morning, and relatives that lived like really far, they was at my house. And the adults were grieving. I was 7, I don't know how to grieve. I'm just looking at everyone have their head down. So I was like, let me have my head down too. And then I remember my aunt came downstairs and she had this tacky ass wig. Like, it was so ugly. And I just looked up and I bursted out laughing. And my mom just gave me that look, and I was like, but mommy, look, it's so ugly. Like, tell her to take it off. And then my mom was like, when you get to the church.
And you're going to get it, but you don't know how to grieve at that age. And a lot of us at our adult age don't know how to grieve. So it's believed that children that are 5 years and younger, and you were around 7?
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 and younger believe that death is not permanent. So they have this idea that the person will come back, kind of like a Sleeping Beauty type of idea. Children that are above 5 have more of an idea that there's a permanence, but they get a lot of guilt, like if they did something wrong. But in this case, you're mimicking, and you're like, oh, the adults have their head down, let me put my head down.
Yeah.
But you're also a child. And the logic is, my aunt looks goofy, let me laugh, a typical childhood response, but you're getting in trouble and you don't know why you're getting in trouble. So what that does to you as a child, the limitation that it puts on you is to not trust your own feelings, to not trust your own emotions. Now Stacy doesn't trust necessarily how she's supposed to feel in certain social situations because I was wrong when I was a child.
Yeah.
And then this persists throughout life. This persists when you have death of certain sorts. It could be that people continue to die throughout life, or it could be that if you have metaphorical death, figurative or literal deaths throughout your life, that you're going to be tested, so to speak, so that you can learn to trust yourself emotionally. So that's a very common one, unfortunately, because adults don't know how to grieve. Adults don't know how to grieve. There's a lot of theories. We'll go into the theories next week, but we really don't. We really don't.
I have one, like, just like Stacy. So my cousin died, right? And my other cousin was with them in the same vehicle. So in our family, we do novenas after someone passes.
That's 9 days?
Yeah, 9 days. So I felt like the presence, I guess, the spiritual presence of my cousin, even though I never really hung out with him or knew him like that. So I always talked to myself, I guess, but I thought I was talking to him. And in those novenas with my little cousins, we used to play, and like we really weren't like paying attention to the whole morning thing. We were just playing. I loved going over because we would play tag or hide and go seek right after all that, and we also had good food. And then the other cousin that was in the vehicle with them, they had this whole, even though I couldn't really pick up on it, but later on I found out that my cousin who was in the vehicle, he got blamed for the cousin's death. So they threw him in jail for a while, and then like this is on my dad's side. My grandma had 18 kids, and out of the 18, 14 were alive. So the altercation between my uncle, the guy's cousin that died, and then my aunt, who her kid was sent to jail, they weren't on speaking terms, and still to this day, they kind of have beef with each other. They don't. So it's like, but me, and now like every time I always talk to myself, but I feel like someone's there. Okay. So it's I don't know.
Now, were you told that you couldn't speak to the dead?
Yeah, like I was asked, who are you talking? My mom still does it to this day. She's like, who are you talking to? Like, why do you talk to yourself? I'm like, I don't know, because I just.
Okay, it is not uncommon that children have connection with the other world, specifically from 0 to 7 years old. That is a very, very common thing. And it is not uncommon that around 7 years old, we lose those gifts because the personality sets in, the logical mind sets in. It's when we go to school is when adults start to put in that discipline and they say those things. Mm-hmm. And so you start to judge yourself and you say, oh, well, it must be me, I'm going crazy. I hear a lot because of my line of work to work with people that have, these gifts.
Yeah.
That they'll say, I was very scared, I didn't want to talk to the dead people anymore, I didn't want to see those, or my parents didn't support me. it's very, very common that around age 7, people, they don't lose their gifts, but they
Yeah.
sort of close them off.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised that you do have those gifts, but if they weren't sort of encouraged, that you yourself said, let me shut that off.
Yeah.
So when you say you're talking to yourself, what do you feel?
I just feel like there's a presence there. Like, I'm not talking to myself. Like, there's actually, like, someone listening.
Okay. And so why do you say that you're talking to yourself? Is it because
Because
you
I
weren't
was
encouraged?
told, because the thing is, when I'm doing it, I do it sometimes in front of people, especially my mom. So she's always like, who are you talking to? Why do you like talking to yourself? I'm like, oh, I don't know, I'm trying to remember something. Like, I just shut it off. I'm like, I don't know, I was trying to remember something. So yeah. And just like you said a minute ago about how your mom used to dress good, my mom, she was very simple. She always wore like a shirt and jeans or like dresses, not really dresses, but I always like, now I like to wear like boy shorts and like big shirts and like, yeah, I look like a loca, like she says. But then I throw it in her face because she's always like, oh, why do you dress like that? You should dress like, you know, even though you're not going out, you should dress like this or dress, like she's always like a certain
Supposed to
way.
be feminine.
Yeah, and so I throw it in her face and I'm like, it's not like you ever dress up, so like, but she's like, oh no, but I have my long skirts. And I was like, yeah, that's because you're holy and Jesus loving. Like, I don't have to dress up. If I feel, she's like, oh, well, you look like a loca. I'm like, okay, so let me be a loca. Like, what the fuck? So, yeah.
Well, there's still rebellion there. There's
Yeah.
still a lot of rebellion.
And there will always be.
There's still a lot of rebellion there, and there's that meeting of
Tension,
forces,
yeah.
a lot of tension there, because you're
Yeah.
trying to exert your independence,
Yeah.
but you're not getting the support to do that. Can you see why at 7, this is our first death, besides the conception? This is the first death we remember. And it's stored in the subconscious. This death that we remember, whether it's finding out that we have to dress a certain way, whether it's inability to, continuously connect to a spiritual realm, whatever it is, whether it's, grieving improperly and being ridiculed of the way that we grieve, will linger on into our life perpetually. And it will be how we judge ourselves, on and on and on. It will be how we constantly validate or invalidate our feelings over and over and over again. That is why listening to a client, what happened to them from 0 to 7, and that's a question I ask all the time. What happened to you from 0 to 7? What happened to you from 0 to 7? It will give you the theme that killed them, so to speak, that gave them death. And then it will explain the situation that they're in now. So asking that question, what happened 0 to 7, will give you insight as to their first death. That's an extremely important question when you're counseling clients, because it's not erroneous. It has some meaning. Okay? Anyone else want to share what happened to them at 7? Yes.
Well, I was always a big reader. I love books. So I was reading a book to my cat. My cat would always lay there. I swore the cat was listening. I mean, I'm still going to believe that. But that was my way of staying out of trouble. So I wouldn't get in trouble, yelled at, or anything. I would just pick up on a new book series and just sink into it, pretend I was there in that realm.
Yeah, they do.
Who got you in trouble?
I was in my mom. I was always in trouble. It didn't matter. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to do it. I was just always in trouble. Like, I slept walk and put a chicken in the sink. I was sleepwalking and someone asked me, what are you doing? I'm putting the chicken in the sink. We're eating chicken. I said that while I was asleep. And I still got in trouble for it, even though I was asleep.
What was your first memory of being in trouble?
Oh,
Don't think. First thing that comes to mind.
saying my first, well, that wasn't my first curse word, but being caught for the first time.
How old were you?
About 6 or 7. I had a stepsister that influenced me a lot to say it. So she would get me in trouble. And I would write